Hi everyone, this is Chef Eileen. We've talked a little bit about food handling and the importance of washing hands, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your groceries and how to know if they're safe for consumption, how long you can keep them in your refrigerator, and just how to handle them in general. So I talked to you a lot about reading your food labels, right? But there's also something on your food besides the nutrition label. There's always like a date, right? And in some cases, it's an expiration date. In other cases, it's a best by date. In other cases, it's a sell by date, or it's an expires by date. So it can get a little bit confusing and leave you with some uncertainty and some questions. So here's the deal. With things like dairy products, the date on them, even though it doesn't say expires by, go with that it expires by that date, right? So your milk and your eggs will expire on that date, except for your eggs have a sell by date on there. So that gives you a little bit of wiggle room. When something says expires by, you don't want to consume it, eat it after the expiration date, right? That is rule number one. If it says sell by date, the sell by date is really for the store that's selling the item. It's telling them how long that item can be on display, how long they can sell it for. So you definitely want to purchase it by the sell by date. It gives you a little wiggle room as far as when you can consume it. But that is the sell by date. And then there's the best if used by date. The best if used by date is more about quality. So it's going to taste best if you have it by this date. It doesn't indicate anything about its safety. So again, it leaves you questioning, should I still have this if it's best if used by this date? I typically pass on something if it's past that date, but again, you have some wiggle room. And again, the expires by date is really important. That's the date you don't want to consume that item. And usually meat products have the expire by date, right? So like here's like a pack of chicken that I had in my freezer because I brought it home and I had it in my refrigerator for 2 days, and then I realized I wasn't going to cook it yet. So I froze it. So a good rule of thumb with any kind of poultry, fish, or ground meat, refrigerate it as soon as you get home and cook it between 1 and 2 days. If you're not going to cook it after 2 days, freeze it. It will remain fresh in your refrigerator, in your freezer, for 3 to 8 months. So, so then at that point, that date becomes null and void because you've frozen it and you've essentially stopped time on your meat. Okay, so that's an important piece there. Now, what about other things like fish and beef? Those things will last in your refrigerator once you bring them home for about 3 days, 3 to 5, depending on how cold your fridge is. And then of course you want to freeze that as well, and that will also keep in your freezer for many months, right? 3 to 8 months, your meats will keep in your freezer. So how about condiments? I went through all the condiments in my refrigerator and I was trying to figure out how long they've been in there, and then wondering how long will they actually last once they are open. And a good rule of thumb is to, once you open your product, write on it with a Sharpie, right? Something that's not going to erase the date that you put it into your refrigerator so that you know how long it's been in there, because they don't last forever, right? I think when I looked at my parents' refrigerator, there are condiments that have been in there for several months. So I definitely had to do some cleaning out. But if you date it, put a little sticky on it or use a Sharpie to put a date on it, you know exactly how long that's been in there. And everything has a different amount of time, right? So like mustard will last in your refrigerator once opened for about a year. It's a super long shelf life. Whereas something like a jam will only last for about 2 months when it's been opened. Mayonnaise, about 2 months. Peanut butter, 2 months if you're leaving it out on the shelf, not refrigerated. 9 months if you leave it in your refrigerator. And then things like barbecue sauce and mayonnaise have a few more months. Like barbecue sauce has 4 months, mayonnaise has 2 months. So your condiments all have different levels of shelf life. So it's a really good rule of thumb to write the date on it so that you know how long it's been in there. And actually, that's a great rule of thumb for any kind of leftovers, right? I'm the queen of leftovers. I cook a meal and then I make, you know, enough portions that I can have it a couple of times. But I always put a date on it so that I know that it's been in my refrigerator. If it's been in my refrigerator more than 2 days, then I don't want to have it, right? Or I'm going to freeze it. So these are tips that are going to help keep your family safe, right? And you always, when in doubt, throw it out. That is probably the best piece of advice that I can give you. If you're not sure how long it's been in there, if it smells a little funny, if it looks a little strange, don't eat it. Throw it out. It's going to keep your family safe. Okay, so I'm going to put all of this into a cheat sheet for you, but the things to remember are your sell-by date. That is for the store that is selling their items. It's telling them that it can only be on the shelf up until that date, and you don't want to buy it past that date. The best of use by date, that's all about quality. The use by date also about quality and safety. And then the expires by date is totally about safety. Do not eat it if it has already expired. Things like your dairy products and your meat products are especially perishable. So you want to keep an eye on all of those. When you do your grocery shopping, as soon as you get home, refrigerate, especially in the summer months, right? It is getting hot out and food spoils rather quickly. So keep your family safe, read your food labels, pay attention to the date on your food, and then just make really good choices, okay? So this is Chef Eileen, and I will be in touch with more safety and sanitation tips for your home kitchen.